Welcome to art class. I'm going to read you a story, but I'm going to have to string it together with a couple different videos. Say hi to all the pug stuff. Anyway, I apologize. It's been a long time since I've sent a video, but the problem is we did our Georgia O'Keeffe paintings and they took a long time to get done, a lot longer than I thought they would. But we're just finishing those up this week and we are moving on to Michelangelo. And you may know Michelangelo from the Mutant Ninja Turtles, but there was a real Michelangelo that existed back in the Renaissance time period that the Ninja Turtles are named from. So we're going to learn a little bit about Michelangelo, and our assignment today is we are going to be sketching figures, so people. If you want to sketch animals, that's fine too. But eventually we're going to be doing clay, and our job is to learn to do the sketching in the correct proportions. Most of the time we get heads that are too big and limbs that are too short. So we're trying to do some sketches. We've been taking turns standing on the table, and everybody gets to sketch. They get to do a pose, and then everybody else is sketching them a little bit before we move on to the next person. So this week, go ahead and sketch someone in your household or pet or both or many and show me what you did. That's what I want you to do. It doesn't matter if it's crayon, marker, colored pencil, regular pencil, it doesn't matter to me. Just sketch and try and get things in about the right proportions. If you want to look at some sketching help online, there's plenty of YouTube videos. I'll try and find one and link one in with this project. All right, I'm gonna read to you about Michelangelo also. All right, our book, Michelangelo. All right, here we go. Michelangelo Buonarroti was born in Florence, Italy in 1475 during the time known as the Renaissance. Many people think he was the greatest artist who ever lived. That is a stone sculpture of him. Michelangelo was a master of architecture, painting, and poetry, but his favorite art was making statues of people. Michelangelo sculpted many of his statues from big blocks of marble, and he chipped away at the marble with a hammer and a chisel until he got it the way he liked. The unfinished statue of St. Matthew, in this picture, shows how Michelangelo started one of his statues. Michelangelo made his statues look very lifelike. Sometimes he would polish them so they look smooth and shiny. You'll notice, if you look at some of his work online, that most of his figures are naked. I happen to draw undies on this one. I usually do. Sometimes Michelangelo would leave chisel marks, and you can see that really close up in here. Can you see the chisel marks? The marks help give the statues shape and a feeling of being alive when they're viewed from a distance. It's pretty cool. When Michelangelo was born, his mother may have been too ill to take care of him because his father took him to live with a family of stonecutters. When he grew up, Michelangelo joked that this was the reason he loved to cut away at stones so much. Michelangelo lived in just the right place and at just the right time in the 1400s and 1500s. People in Florence were very interested in architecture, painting, poetry, and sculpture. When Michelangelo was 13, he learned a lot by art just by walking through the streets of Florence on his way to the school and workshop of Florence's most popular artist, Domenico Ghirlandaio. Michelangelo loved paintings of Giotto and Masaccio that he saw on the walls and the churches of Florence. Pretty realistic. And he also admired the sculptures of Donatello and Ghiberti. These artists lived and worked in Florence before Michelangelo was even born. This is a 3D statue, which means it's carved all the way around. And this is called a relief, which it's carved just on the front side. Michelangelo learned lots on his own, but he also learned many things about being an artist from his master, Ghirlandaio. One important thing that Ghirlandaio might have taught Michelangelo was the difficult art of fresco painting. To make a fresco, artists put on wet plaster, and as the plaster dries, the painting becomes part of the wall, so it lasts a long, long time. And this is because the paint won't flake off. Fresco painting came in very handy for Michelangelo later on when he began his most famous painting, the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Here's another relief sculpture. Michelangelo's first love was sculpture, and when he was about 16, he went to study at a new school that was only for sculptors. It was started by the wealthiest and most powerful man in Florence, Lorenzo de' Medici. Lorenzo loved art and all kinds, and he paid artists to create works of art for him. People who paid artists in this way were known as patrons. Lorenzo soon realized that Michelangelo had a special talent and invited him to live at his palace. The sculpture on the next page was one of the first Michelangelo did at Lorenzo's school. Michelangelo studied as hard as he could to become a good sculptor, but it wasn't until he visited Rome that Michelangelo showed people just how good he really was. Rome was another great art city in Italy, and Michelangelo made a statue for a wealthy patron there that amazed everyone who saw it. This is called the Pietà. It was so beautiful, people found it hard to believe it was done by such a young artist. Michelangelo did this statue when he was only 24 years old. The people who ran the city of Florence heard about Michelangelo's beautiful statue, and as soon as he returned home, they asked him to carve a statue for Florence. They even gave Michelangelo a huge block of marble to work with, and Michelangelo was very happy. He couldn't wait to start. Michelangelo turned the block of marble into the most famous sculpture. The statue shows David ready to fight the giant Goliath. That's a Bible story. But David also shows that the people of Florence thought of themselves as strong, brave, clever, and ready to defend their city. During this time, the powerful ruler of the church in Rome heard about Michelangelo. Pope Julius II wanted to build beautiful churches and statues in Rome so that people would remember him. And he asked Michelangelo to come there to work. At first, everything was fine. Pope Julius just wanted Michelangelo to carve a group of statues for him. But soon after Michelangelo started the project, Julius lost interest. He decided there was a much more important job he wanted done. Julius asked Michelangelo to paint the large ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Michelangelo was disappointed. He was a sculptor, not a painter, and Pope Julius didn't really care what Michelangelo thought and practically forced him to begin the painting. During the time it took to paint the ceiling, the Pope and Michelangelo had many arguments. After 4 years, Michelangelo was finally finished painting that ceiling. I'm trying to get close so you can see some of the figures in there. It turned out to be one of the most wonderful paintings in the history of art. Four years. Oof. Michelangelo painted many scenes from the Bible, and one of the most famous scenes shows God giving life to Adam. All right, this is in my room. You've probably seen it before. No, Adam does not have clothes on, but in this particular thing and in the painting in my room, I did give him underwear. Didn't want to see that all day. And that's supposed to be God and all the angels and cherubs and all that. So Michelangelo painted many scenes from the Bible, and this is one of them, God giving life to Adam. The looks on the faces of God and Adam are very realistic. And Michelangelo painted their bodies like they'd never been painted before. Suddenly, Michelangelo became known as one of the greatest painters in the whole world. After the Sistine Chapel ceiling was finished, Michelangelo went on to create many other beautiful works of art, including plans for the building of the famous dome on top of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. One of the things that made Michelangelo such a great artist was his ability to give a special energy and strength to the people he painted and sculpted. Even though the statue of Moses is sitting very still, Michelangelo was able to give him a feeling of great power. It's kind of hard to believe that this is all done in stone. Look at all the muscles and the folds in the fabric. And that's a 3D all the way around statue. Michelangelo lived to be 89 years old. He was working on a sculpture called the Rodinini Pietà just a few days before he died, so obviously this sculpture is not finished. You can even see the chisel marks. Michelangelo felt the human body was the most important subject an artist could ever paint or sculpt. And he spent so much of his life studying nature and science in order to make his works of art as lifelike as humanly possible. You know what? Recently, they cleaned the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Well, not that recently. It's been a while now. And they were amazed at how much more colorful it is. Sadly, this book does not show how colorful it is. I have not been to see it myself, but I hear it's quite the amazing thing to see. It's a must-see thing if you ever go there. All right. Okay, so good luck doing your figure drawing this week. Next week, we're going to be working on clay. You could use Play-Doh, or you could be looking up recipes online to make your own clay at home. You have to think about that. There's modeling clay, that Crayola Model Magic. There's lots of possibilities that you could go get some or that you could make your own. But that's what we're going to be doing next week when I send the next lesson. So good luck, have fun, and be creative.